Hi, everybody, and welcome to The Insurance Lawyer. This is the podcast where we discuss topics concerning lawsuits between insurance companies and their policyholders. I'm your host, Evan Schwartz, founding partner of Schwartz, Conroy & Hack. The firm represents businesses and individual policyholders in claims and lawsuits against their insurance companies, helping policyholders get their claims paid. Today, we're going to be discussing long-term disability claims, an area which I have been involved in now for more than 25 years. And over the course of the 25 years, I can tell you that a lot has changed in the world of long-term disability claims. There was a time when you could get your claim paid very quickly and easily without a lot of proof or documentation, but that has changed. And now the insurance companies that are still in the business selling the policies or winding down the block of policies that they previously sold are scrutinizing claims extraordinarily carefully up front and trying to determine whether or not they believe that they have liability to pay the claims. So what I want to talk to you about today is some of the basics for people who have long-term disability insurance, whether they have it personally and individually or through their employer or a combination of both, and what they need to think about and what they need to consider as they either get ready to file a claim or they think they may be filing a claim in the future or might be in the midst of a long-term disability claim. And like a lot of things in life, the early claims preparation is very, very important. And there are things that you need to be thinking about and doing, hopefully long before you ever actually file the claim. But these things are equally as important throughout any stage of the claims process. And before we get into sort of the basic step-by-step things that I want to discuss, I want to talk about what the insurance companies are looking at when they get notified that someone intends to make a claim. So what do? Well, the first thing they do is they try to get some information from the insured. If the insured is the one reporting the claim, they try to find out what's going on, get some basic information, put it into their system, assign a claim number, and send out claim forms. Those are forms that the insured, presumably you or your client or a friend, need to fill out and have a doctor fill out to submit to the insurance company in order for the insurance company to start evaluating the merits of the claim and determining whether or not they're going to pay the long-term disability claim or dispute it or deny it or reject it in some other way. So what is it the insurance company is looking for? Well, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to look at your application, the application you filled out when you got the policy, and they're going to try to determine whether or not there's any information on that application that may be untrue or may have been misrepresented, whether intentionally or not. The next thing they're going to be doing, and this is all in conjunction with them gathering up from information, because they're going to gather up your medical records, they're going to get verification of your occupational duties, they're going to get financial information, and they're going to gather up all this information about you and what you were doing to determine whether or not the claim is payable. So in addition to looking at the application in conjunction with all of this information that they're collecting as they evaluate your claim, they're going to be looking to, as I said, verify your occupational duties. When I talk about occupation, because long-term disability insurance claims come in all different shapes and sizes, occupational verification is going to depend on the language of your own policies. So one of the first questions you're going to ask when you're looking at your policies is, do I have an own occupation policy or something else? And own occupation can also come in different shapes and sizes, which we will get into. So they're going to be verifying your occupational duties. They're going to be looking at your financial information, W-2s, tax returns, potentially profit and loss statements, depending on the nature of your claim, to determine what, if anything, is payable on your claim. Of course, one of the most important things they'll also be looking at is the medical support for your claim. What are what they call your restrictions and limitations due to your disabling condition? And what is your disabling condition? What do you have? Do you have a sickness? Do you have a disease? Were you in an accident? What are the circumstances surrounding the nature of the medical support or the healthcare support for your claim? Finally, there'll be things that they're doing during the course of a claim or even while the claim's being paid for continuing verification, or if they're paying under a reservation of rights while they continue to investigate your claim, And one of the things they'll likely be doing in that particular instance is surveilling the insured, surveilling you, the alleged disabled person, to see whether or not you are engaging in any activities that they believe are inconsistent with what you claim to be your restrictions and limitations from your ability to work either in your occupation or in any job. So that's some of the basic things that the insurance company is going to be looking at while they evaluate the potential merits of your claim. So let's talk about what you need to be thinking about and maybe doing, hopefully long before you ever have to submit a claim. So we'll call this early claims preparation. What do you need to be doing? Well, the first thing that I always tell clients is, do you know all the insurance coverage that you have? So do you have a personal or individual disability insurance policy? Do you have a group disability insurance policy? Do you have more than one? Do you have multiples? Do you have other types of disability coverage in the event you're disabled? For example, people that own businesses might have key person insurance. So that would be disability buyout insurance to buy out a key person who becomes disabled. They may also, if they own their own business or are running a business, they may have something called business overhead expense disability insurance, or BOE. So that's disability buyout insurance, or DBO, or business overhead expense insurance, BOE. In addition, a lot of people will also have life insurance policies, and those insurance policies may have a waiver of premium provision for the life insurance benefit in the event of disability. So the first thing you need to do is, hey, do I have all kinds of different coverage, and what do I have? And then, of course, what does the coverage say? It's likely that if you have multiple different types of policies like the ones I've just described, that the language for triggering whether or not you're disabled, for how long the benefits might be payable, for the amount that might be payable, are all going to vary. It's unlikely that they will all be completely consistent, although that's possible. That's unlikely if you have all those different types of coverage. So the first thing to do is understand what you have and understand what it says or what it provides for. The next thing you need to try to do is understand what's going on with you physically or mentally or in some other way. I meet a lot of clients who are having a lot of difficulty getting a diagnosis or figuring out what's wrong with them so that they are able to assess the merits of whether or not they have a potential disability claim and whether that claim is supported. So what's going on with you? You're having numbness and tingling in your foot. You're having numbness and tingling radiating down from your back. You're having incredible bouts of fatigue. You're foggy. You can't think straight. You've got pain in different parts of your body. You've got pain in your joints. You've got pain in your back. You've got pain in your neck. You've got unremitting headaches. You have all kinds of potential things that can go wrong with somebody. And frankly, it amazes me as I live life and have represented so many people with long-term disability claims that you could wake up in the morning and everything on your body is operational and feels good is kind of a minor miracle and a blessing. Unfortunately, not all of us get so blessed because of either a disease that is just a disease that's genetic, or a disease we contract, or a disease we contract through the repetitive actions of what we do at work, or we get in an accident, or we have some other type of injury. But there are all different ways that people can get sick and have things happen to them that affect their ability to perform their job or to work at all. Understand what it is, go to the doctor, and try to get a diagnosis if you can. Sometimes there's a lot of neurological conditions that are not readily diagnosed and hard to figure out. And a lot of times clients will come to me and we talk about what's going on and what symptoms someone's experiencing and how it's limiting them. And it's important when you are the potentially disabled person to listen to your body, to know what your symptoms are. And even if at work you are trying to keep a stiff upper lip and power your way through the difficulties you're experiencing, when it comes to understanding your disability and supporting it, you don't want to be all Mr. and Mrs. Chin Up, I'm really fine. Because you're preventing yourself and doing yourself a disservice and trying to figure out what's wrong and being expressive about your symptoms so that if and when an insurance company gets their hands on them, they get an understanding of what your limitations and restrictions are, why this pain affects your ability to work, limits your ability to work, prevents your ability to work. So when it comes to a long-term disability claim, that is not the time for you to be proud and to be hiding from the conditions that are affecting you. So it's very important to be expressive about those. And it's quite important often when you're having difficulty getting a diagnosis to document and record your symptoms. People forget the different aches and pains and difficulties that they're going through. So keeping a diary about your limitations and the things that are affecting you can sometimes be extraordinarily valuable in proving up a long-term disability claim. In addition, keeping that diary will be a form of proof, if necessary, later on. And not only for diarying your aches and your pains and your limitations, but the things that you used to do that you're now not doing because of that, because that all is corroborative evidence that you're disabled. I used to go ballroom dancing. Now I just try to make it through a day of work. I used to play golf. I can't swing a golf club anymore. I used to love to go out on my sailboat, or my motorboat, take people water skiing, but now the bouncing affects me. It hurts me. I can't go out on the boat anymore. There's all types of life things that you stop doing that corroborate the fact that you are limited or unable to work. And to be able to document those in a way that you can convey it to your treating doctors as well as to the insurance company can be extraordinarily powerful. So that's another factor to consider. Okay, so understanding your coverage, understanding what's affecting you and how you're being affected, making sure those conditions, if you have them, are properly diagnosed. What's next? Well, having a doctor support those restrictions and limitations, and not only having a doctor do it, but making sure that that doctor is the right discipline of a doctor to support the claim. So if you're having all kinds of nerve-related pain, back pain and neck pain, okay, having a primary care doctor say you're disabled from those things is not something that is always acceptable to an insurance company, even though they have an MD next to their name. Their specialty is not neurology. Their specialty is not orthopedics. They're not a pain management specialist. So quite often you're going to get pushback from an insurance company if you don't have the right doctor to support the condition that is affecting or limiting or preventing you from working. And making sure that doctor's actually going to support the claim and fill out the claim forms. Because if they won't, it becomes much more difficult to prove up your disability. And I tell a lot of clients who come in to see me, I say, I can work a lot of magic on a long-term disability claim and get people paid. But without proper medical support, I've got real problems. And so proper medical support is the documentation from the doctors that supports that you're limited and restricted from working in your occupation or working in any job, and the fact that they'll actually support it and they'll fill out a claim form and they'll put it what needs to be put on it to get your claim paid. So making sure your healthcare providers are on your team, not just with your treatment, but with supporting your claim is extraordinarily important. The next thing I like to talk about when it comes to your medical records is I like to call this documented deterioration, okay? So what's documented deterioration? It means that when you go in to see your healthcare provider and you complain about your pain and your limitations and your restrictions, that you're telling them that and that they're putting it in the chart. They're putting it in their notes. They're putting it in the medical chart. So when the insurance company gets the medical records, they can see that you're reporting difficulties and they're recording it. And typically, your difficulties are increasing and your limitations are getting greater. And that's why ultimately you reduce your hours at work or you stop entirely because your pain's getting worse. Your ability to function is diminishing and you can't do it anymore. And when that documented deterioration occurs and it's actually then in your doctor's medical notes and in their chart, that's the linchpin of going from going out on disability to getting that money flowing because it's in the notes, it's seen, it's documented. There's not only support from your doctor's clinical evaluation and maybe some testing, but just from the course of treatment, it shows that deterioration. Okay. The other thing that people don't think about quite often, and I meet with a lot of clients and I wind up asking questions about this, is the effect that someone has cognitively. Cognitive loss, either inability to think clearly, fogginess, short-term memory loss, long-term memory loss, all things that affect your ability to function, particularly as an executive functioning. You're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you're a financial professional, you're a CEO. You have a high pressure, high stress, and high cognitive requirements of your job. You need to think and process information quickly and clearly and concisely and make determinations, and stop on a dime and think and move in another direction and process loads of information quickly. When you are cognitively impaired, you can't do that job anymore. And there are ways to measure that. There are ways to document that. And there are ways to prove that up. And there are so many different things that can affect people cognitively, whether it's fibromyalgia, Lyme disease, medication that you're taking for pain, the outcome of chemotherapy, depression, other psychiatric conditions. There are a vast number of neurological conditions that can affect you cognitively. People that have MS, people that have Parkinson's, people that have other neurological conditions. There are so many different things that can affect the brain, and the brain is sort of the last great frontier of medicine. And there are so many things that can affect that cognitive ability. And when that cognitive ability is impaired, so goes the ability to work or to perform effectively in your job or to do it the same way you did it before. So if you're having those types of fog and that fatigue, that's something to think about. And it's something that often can be measured and supported in connection with your long-term disability claim. So what I'm going to do now, because I'm going to stop for now, because there's a lot to this process, and I'm going to stop with this early claims preparation and understanding some of the basic things you need to understand before you think about filing a claim, move forward with filing a claim, or you're in the middle of the claims process and you need to support it, or even you've been on claim getting paid and there's some issues with the continued support of your claim. These are the things that always are the fallbacks and the basics of understanding what you need to do to make it most likely that the insurance company is going to pay your benefits. So understand what coverage you have, understand what conditions are disabling you, make sure they're properly diagnosed if possible, that your doctors will support them. There's documented deterioration in your file and in your medical chart, and you've evaluated the potential cognitive impact, if any, on your ability to work and seen that it gets measured. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for listening. And if you like your podcast, you can go on to my website at www.schlawpc.com, Schwartz, Conroy, and Hack PC, and follow my podcast. I am the insurance lawyer, and you have a fantastic afternoon.